When Julia moved into apartment 3B, she thought she'd finally found peace. It was a cozy one-bedroom in an old brick building, creaky floors, low rent, and just enough charm to distract her from the fact that she was completely alone for the first time in years. The landlord, an older man named Mr. Kellerman, was unusually eager to get her settled in. He kept repeating the same thing over and over. "You'll be fine, miss. Just don't mind the noises at night. Old pipes, that's all." Julia just laughed it off. But she did notice the strange way he avoided looking down the hallway toward her unit. That first night, Julia unpacked until she was too exhausted to move. She collapsed into bed, and just as she was drifting off, around 1 a.m., she heard a loud thud. It wasn't from above, and it wasn't from the street outside. It came from inside her apartment. She froze, listening. Then came a dragging sound, slow and uneven, from the living room. Holding her breath, she grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight, and tiptoed out of her bedroom. The moment her light hit the room, the noise stopped. Nothing seemed out of place, except for one thing. The old ornate mirror hanging near the window was slightly tilted, as if someone had just bumped into it. She straightened it, her fingers brushing against the glass. It was cold, unnaturally cold, colder than anything else in the room. A couple of days later, Julia met one of her neighbors, a quiet man from apartment 3C. He mentioned that her apartment had been empty for almost a year. The last tenant, a woman named Mara, had just disappeared. The cops said she must have moved out in the middle of the night, he told her, lowering his voice. But all her stuff was still there. Even her phone charger was still plugged into the wall. That night, Julia had a terrifying dream. She dreamed of a figure standing at the foot of her bed, a dark silhouette against the window, whispering, "You're not supposed to be here." She woke up with a gasp, her heart pounding. And when her eyes adjusted to the dark, she saw it, the mirror. It was no longer flat against the wall. It was now angled perfectly, facing her bed, reflecting her own terrified face back at her. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe she'd moved it herself while half asleep, right? It was an old building. Maybe the wall was uneven. Still, a deep sense of dread settled in her stomach. She got up and pushed the mirror so it was facing the wall, the glass unable to reflect anything. That should do it, she thought. But then came the knocks, 3 of them, soft but deliberate. And they weren't coming from the hallway or the neighbors. They came from inside the wall, right behind the mirror. She hesitated, then pressed her ear against the cool plaster. A whisper came through, breathy and faint, almost lost in the silence. "Help me!" Julia screamed and bolted for the door. She ran into the hallway and started banging on her neighbor's door, 3C. He opened it, looking groggy and pale. When she frantically explained what she heard, his face went completely white. "That's impossible," he stammered. There's no unit behind yours. That wall backs onto the old laundry shaft. It's been sealed for decades." The next day, Julia called her landlord, Mr. Kellerman. He listened to her story with a long, tired sigh. "Just ignore it, miss," he said, his voice flat. "That woman, she was obsessed with that mirror too. I should have thrown it out." Before she could ask what he meant, he hung up. Julia stood in her living room, staring at the back of the mirror. As she watched, the empty space on the wall where the glass should be seemed to shimmer as if it were filled with smoke. And then, slowly, a handprint began to appear on the glass. 5 small fingers, pressing through from the inside. That was it. She couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed a hammer from her toolbox, determined to tear the cursed thing off the wall. But when she struck the heavy wooden frame, something rattled behind it, a hollow metallic sound. Prying it away from the wall, she discovered it wasn't plaster behind the mirror. It was a narrow metal door with a rusty latch. Her hand trembled as she reached out and pulled it open. A gust of cold, stale air escaped from the darkness. The smell hit her immediately, damp, earthy, like a place that had been sealed away for a very long time. Her phone's flashlight cut through the thick dust. The shaft went straight down, maybe 20 feet, lined with old bricks and pipes. And at the bottom, she saw something pale. A shape, a face, staring up into the darkness. The police came. They found the remains of a woman at the bottom of the shaft. Dental records soon confirmed it was Mara, the missing tenant. Mr. Kellerman was taken in for questioning. Apparently, that old laundry shaft wasn't quite as sealed as he had claimed. The mirror was taken away as evidence, but Julia still couldn't sleep. Every night she heard it. The knocking. Fainter now, more distant, but it was there. 3 soft knocks, coming from inside the glass that was no longer there. The mirror was gone, but somehow the sound had stayed. 2 weeks later, a new tenant moved into apartment 3B. A young man absolutely thrilled to have found such a cheap place in the city. As he carried in his boxes, he noticed an odd stain on the living room wall. The faint, rectangular outline of something that had once hung there. He thought it looked like the shape of a mirror. And that night, just as he drifted off to sleep, he was startled awake by a sound. 3 soft knocks coming from deep within the wall. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more chills. We'll see you in the next one.